Welcome to On Purpose with Paul. I am Paul Peters, your amazing host, entrepreneur, business owner, founder of the nonprofit, and best-selling author. I'm here today to talk to you about how to find your purpose. My name is Paul Peters. I'm a proud father of the 3 kids. I always want to put that as a priority for me. I have a company called Covenant Case Management Services in North Carolina, where I primarily work with folks with intellectual disability, mental health, substance abuse. We are looking to expand outside of North Carolina this year. Also have a nonprofit based in North Carolina called the Nehemiah Project. We basically work with individuals that are struggling with addiction, homelessness, seniors, veterans, homeless, and at-risk kids, domestic violence victims, and those with mental health, intellectual disabilities. I want to take my message about what I have discovered helping people find their purpose, and I want to take it worldwide, because I believe if people find their purpose, they're going to find their joy, they're going to find the reason for their existence and how they connect to this world. Good evening. I want to talk with you today about how you discover your purpose. And I want you all to get into a mindset of thinking on purpose. And so I want to give a couple examples, and I want to use some tools, because it's a lot easier for us when we think about, I need to get a screwdriver, I need to get a hammer, because you have a specific purpose in mind in doing that. So I happen to have a screwdriver here. So when we have a screwdriver and we need to use it, it's usually to screw in a screw into the wall or hang a picture. And when we think about that, we also understand that this screwdriver was created by somebody with that specific purpose. When we shared last week that we are all created specifically unique and different, we all have a specific purpose in our lives to fulfill. And we as humans are sometimes multi-purpose in regards to, and I'm going to give several examples. So I have a phone here. The phone, when it was first created, was simply a form of communication. That was its purpose. But when you look at the modern day phone, it not only communicates, it takes pictures, you can watch movies, it has multi-purposes. So when we think about us and what is our purpose, is it so singly defined like a screwdriver? Sometimes, but not necessarily. Because, like I said before, we are created for a specific purpose. And sometimes that purpose is not easy to find. If we're created like a screwdriver, it's pretty clear what that purpose is. And God makes it specifically difficult for us because He's trying to get us to a point of searching. I'm going to be sharing a story that I think lays that out, because so often, as I shared last week, we have a vision of what we want to do, and often when the vision begins to work in that direction and we begin to manifest, sometimes we're going to face trials. And I'm going to tell you the story of a man named Joseph, who was a dreamer, a visionary, much like myself. And he went through obstacles, and his purpose was not fulfilled until a little bit later, I believe 14 years. So I want to talk with you about some of the things that I discovered, and I shared some of my life story last week, and I will share some more with you. And I'm going to use my illustration from the book, my first book, Discovering and Embracing Your Life Purpose. And it's on here is a path. So I want to kind of paint a picture of how I created this. And what I typically do when I write is I will go ahead and create the picture of what I want the finished product to be. And then what I do is I hire a designer and basically explain to him what it is I envision the cover to look like. This is before one word has been written in this book. So for me, I go ahead and create the finished product that already sets my mind in motion that this is going to be a finished book. And then once I have the picture designed, I will then put it in front of me every day. That will then force me to get into a situation to begin to write the book and begin to develop the topics in the book. And for me, I never envisioned myself to be an author. But then I thought to myself, I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do something where I could leave my message, my legacy. And that typically is done in various ways. You can do it through a book. You can do it through counseling. You can do it through a song. Because when we pass on out of this life, what we leave behind is the message we're going to leave behind. And for me, I knew that God had given me a message to speak. And so that's why I decided I wanted to write. And the key factor for me is, did I believe that I was an author? And that is so important when we are living out our purpose. Because as I said last week, the element of belief drives us to the point of completion of whatever that vision is. And I had to see myself as an author. And I'm telling you, I was not the best English student. And if you've seen my handwriting, I'm definitely not the best at grammar and how the writing looks. But thank goodness, because we have modern day technology, I can type it so you'd never know that I'm a bad speller or a bad writer. But what I did is I began to believe in myself. And I had something that I shared with you last week. Something within us that drives us to do the thing that we want to accomplish. And for me, I knew I had a message. Because in my own pursuit of trying to identify what my purpose was, I simply asked the question, do other people have that same question? Do other people have that same drive? And I shared some of the story in regards to some of the struggles I faced, and recognizing that was not the life, the choice that I wanted to live out in my life. I wanted more. I wanted joy. I wanted fulfillment. I wanted peace. And so I pursued that. And for me, it was in a relationship with the Father, because I shared my story about my own father. And as I began to draw closer and understand a little bit more through the life choices that I made, I began to get a little bit closer as to what I believe God's purpose was for my life. And so when I wrote this book, and I don't know if you can see it, but the end goal was the castle. And for all of us, we have an end goal. What do we want? It may be the car, it may be the castle, it may be whatever that may be. And then there's a journey, there's a path. So this book is very symbolic of the path we all take. And on this path were puzzle pieces. And you're probably asking yourself, puzzle pieces, what does that mean? Well, when I looked at purpose, and I'll read some of these, when I looked at discovering your purpose, much like the difference between the screwdriver, which typically has one purpose or one puzzle piece, trying to discover your life purpose, it has elements of various puzzle pieces. And so when I looked at how does one begin to discover their purpose, and I simply reflected on my own journey. When I looked at my upbringing, when I looked at some of the challenges, when I looked at my own gifts in regards to what was put within me that was different than anyone else. When I looked at my strengths, what is it that I'm pretty good at? And what is it that I'm not that good at? And then I also looked at other attributes in regards to my faith. And so when you look at all of these different elements that make up who we are, and remember, we are unique. There is no one else like us. And it's interesting because in that, God has specifically designed us to do something special. And for me, it's in the context of the relationship with God that He began to reveal. And so when you understand that the creator in the sense of the screwdriver or the creator of the phone, had a purpose in mind with whoever was going to use it. And so often the creator of the screwdriver or the phone would have instruction manuals. And that instruction manual basically told the user, this is how you use it to serve its purpose. When you have more complex items such as an automobile or different things, the instruction manual is a little bit more thicker and detailed. And so it's kind of the same thing with us. We are very complicated beings. And so often, if we want to understand what is our purpose, we have to go to the Creator. Well, the Creator created an instruction manual. For me, and my faith, that happens to be the Bible. And so when I look at why and how God created me, He gave some wise words, some instruction to help me understand my journey. And the neat thing about it, He used a lot of stories, a lot of examples of other people who have journeyed that same path. And so one of the things I'm going to help you all understand is the need and the power of confronting your fear and beginning to transform your life to live out your purpose and ultimately live out the legacy you've called to live out. And so part of that journey for me was to understanding when I looked at all areas of my life that I was beginning to grow in and beginning to see the things that God had done for me at the time, it was painful. It was difficult for me to go from being homeless to then humbling myself, living with my brother, who was, one of my mentors, living with him and having him guide me and direct me and getting my life back on course. That was very humbling for me. But that is the very requirement if you're going to change. You've got to be willing to humble yourself and have others teach you. We take this for granted because many of us go to school because we're trying to learn and acquire a skill, if it's a vocational, or we're required to go to elementary, middle school, high school. And we've got people, principals, teachers, instructors that are trying to pour into us the knowledge and the education for us to be successful. And the more willing we are to obey and listen, the better it's going to be. Not only will we have good grades, but we're going to benefit from what they're trying to teach us because they themselves are knowledgeable, skilled masters at their trade per se, and they're trying to get us to a point where we can begin to learn and apply those things. Well, that's how life works. And when we look at people such as, whatever your heroes or your idols, many of them, especially grown-up young boys, loved sports figures. They just epitomized what it was to be a hero. And so when we look to these heroes or heroines, we're looking to what they've accomplished. And the important thing is not so much what they accomplished, which is great and wonderful. I grew up, and many of you all still know Michael Jordan. He was from Chicago. I'm from Chicago. And so he was a great basketball, some say the greatest basketball player. And was he any different than you and I? Yes and no. He had a dream. He had a goal. We'll be right back after these messages.